Well, good evening to you. Good crowd tonight. We've had some great, this fall has been well attended here at the Cowboy Church, and such a blessing to see you there. And more than that, I just sense wells of joy tonight. You're just happy, you're contented, and you're at rest, and it's just good to be with you as we dig into God's Word and take a big old bite of the Word of the bread of life, actually. And it's going to be kind of fun tonight as we get into Daniel chapter 7. As I told you last Sunday morning, I promised you we're going to be dealing with the throne of God. We're going to talk about the throne that God sits on. We'll be dealing with some of that this evening and other things. So let's see, next Sunday morning, I'll be preaching in Daniel chapter 8. And then, right after Thanksgiving, we're going to jump on to chapter 9. And the reason I'm telling you that in advance is chapter 9 is the quintessential chapter that just about all prophecy is built on. Daniel chapter 9. And you might want to take some time to dig into it deep and study it hard, because that 9th chapter defines so much of what we'll be understanding in Revelation, what Thessalonians talks about, Matthew 24, many other places in the Bible. Daniel 9 is where so much of it is rooted in. If I were you, between now and right after Thanksgiving, I'd dig into that and read it, because that's where we'll be digging into. Now, let's start tonight. Daniel chapter 7. Anybody get the History Channel? That's one of my favorite channels. I hardly watch anything else besides home decorating shows. Right? Anybody else? Okay. You like home decorating shows? Oh, I do too, honey. Yes. I'm in trouble. Anyway, the History Channel has a series called The Ancient Aliens. Anybody ever seen Ancient Aliens? All right. Everything that ever has happened in the world that has even the slightest question about it, aliens did it, right? Aliens did it. They're the ones. That's all they can. That's the only answer they have for everything that's going on in the world is aliens are doing it. Well, I'd like to let them read the Bible a little bit, straighten them out on this. One of the ancient aliens' favorite chapters in the Bible, and I hear it over and again. By the way, I watch it. I watched every episode of it because I'm just curious to see how messed up they are, you know. I want to. Once in a while, I pick something up and learn something. But anyway, one of their favorite passages is the chapter 1 of Ezekiel, the wheels within the wheels. Oh, do they have a good time with the wheels within the wheels of Ezekiel? They think that's a spaceship, and they've got that all figured out. They know how that works. Let's read Ezekiel 1, chapter 4. Chapter 1, verse 4. I'm just going to read it to you. Follow along if you can catch me that quick. And let's look a little up here. And I looked, Ezekiel speaking, and behold, a whirlwind came out of the north, a great cloud, and a fire enfolding itself. And a brightness was about it, and out of the midst thereof, as the color of amber, out of the midst of a fire. Now I'm going to read you a quote. This is a direct quote from the story. This was on their program. This is a direct quote. Here's what they said. In the book of Ezekiel, the prophet describes a flying chariot containing wheels within wheels and powered by angels. Although Bible historians suggest Ezekiel was speaking symbolically about the terrifying enemies facing Israel, could this, they always ask, they never say anything. It's always a question. Could this be another example of an alien visitation and proof that prehistoric aircraft existed? Well, that's a direct quote. Folks, listen. Ezekiel was not a UFO. He saw something far greater than an unidentified flying object filled with little green men from Mars. He saw the very throne of God. The very throne of God. And that's the one we talked about a little bit last last Sunday. And then tonight we're going to pick it up and go further with it. We're going to dig into that, see if we can know anything more about this. I'm going to read you Acts chapter 7, verse 49, where it says, Heaven is my throne, and the earth is the footstool of my feet. What kind of house will you build for me, says the Lord? Or what place is there for my repose? I want you to understand something. My dear friends, the Creator of the universe doesn't need a throne to sit on. You understand? He doesn't need a house to be built for him to worship in. That's what he told David. When David wanted to build him a temple, he said, David said, or God said to him, I don't need a temple. But where could you put me? Where could I, the earth is my footstool. The stars, where could you put me? So the Ancient of Days does not need a temple or a throne. Listen very, very carefully. He wants to make His home in you. Amen?
Amen.
That's where He wants to build a home, is in you and in me. So He doesn't need any place else. Now Daniel is in the middle of a divine revelation. Whatever he's doing, whatever's happening, this vision, this dream, whatever, he sees that the parade of nations passed before him. Now, if you were here when we talked about Nebuchadnezzar's dream, and then the other dreams, they're all the same. All the dreams and visions in Daniel tell the same story over and over again. Daniel in 7 and in 8 and in 9 gives us a lot more understanding about the end of time, about what's going to happen after that when that final king comes and rules. And we're going to be talking about that a lot tonight and also Sunday. So in this vision that Daniel's having in the book, chapter 7, let's read verse 9. We'll catch up right here and start work on this. I'll start to try to unpack this a little bit. So in chapter 7, verse 9, Daniel, in the middle of this revelation, he sees, in his vision, he sees the Ancient of Days coming and sitting in judgment on the nations. Okay, God is coming. Jehovah God, Yahweh God is coming, Creator God, and He sits in judgment on the nations. Now remember I told you that when you read prophecy or you hear about heaven, whenever they sit, when someone's seated, he is sitting in judgment. He's sitting in authority and power. On earth, when a teacher or a preacher or a president or anybody speaks to his congregations, they stand, and that's the symbol of authority. Everybody sits, they stand. But in heaven, remember, everything's upside down in heaven. In heaven, everybody else stands, and the king sits. All right, God sits. So He's seated in judgment on the nations. And He's looking at Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greek, Roman. I'm giving you the order. Over and over again, we run into the same order. And then that revised Roman Empire, and then that final government that comes out of the NATO countries is where that final government will come out of. Let's verse 9. As I looked, thrones were set in place, and the Ancient of Days took His seat. His clothing was as white as snow. The hair of His head was white like wool. His throne was flaming with fire, and its wheels were ablaze. Its wheels were ablaze. That's what got me interested when I heard that it had wheels. Any gearheads in here? There's a whole row of gearheads up here. Well, the chariot of God, the throne of God, has wheels on it, boys. I don't know what it's powered by. Yeah, I do know what it's powered by. I'll tell you in a minute. It's better than any motor any man ever built. Anyway, so it was flaming, and its wheels were all ablaze. A river of fire was flowing, coming out before him. Now, get usually when we think of something being powered, when it moves forward, its exhaust goes backward, or the things that are empowering it would fly out behind it. But God's chariot, when He goes forward, the fire, a river flows out in front of it. It's just cool, isn't it? To think about that. Thousands upon thousands attended Him. 10,000 times 10,000 stood before Him. The court was seated, and the books were opened. Now, the court, I don't even get into that because there's so much mythology and occultism built into some of the interpretations that are out there. It's not relevant for tonight. Just know this. The court was seated. God was seated on His throne, and He was judging. He was sitting in judgment on Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece. He was sitting in judgment on Rome. He was sitting in judgment on the revised Roman Empire, which is NATO, the NATO countries, and then the final kingdom that's going to come out of that thing. He's sitting in judgment on that. Now, let's keep reading. Because Daniel, as he's looking into this vision, I'm crazy. I am a little nuts. When I read the Bible, I pick stuff out that a lot of people don't see, and it puzzles me. Here's what I'm puzzled about. Here he is looking at the throne of God with the wheels and the chariots and the cherubim By the way, I don't know if we're going to get back to it so much, but God's throne is a living entity. It's not a machine. It's a living being. It's living beings. And they're called cherub. Cherubim is the plural of cherub. They're Indians. They're angels. Now, you know, we think, what do you think of when somebody they're writing a Christmas card or whatever, they'll draw a picture of a cherub. What is a cherub? He's always this fat little baby with so cute. Let me tell you something. That's wrong. A cherub is not a fat little baby. These are unimaginably ferocious and powerful beings that God has created. I mean, they're little cherubs are not fat little babies. If you ever run into a cherub, you're going to do a whole lot worse than Daniel did. And we're going to see what he does here in a moment. He faints and passes out and goes into all kinds of spasms because he sees this cherub. Anyway, let's don't get ahead of ourselves. So he watched. Daniel, here's what I'm saying. Here's what I got to be excited. Daniel is looking at this throne coming, but he can't, get this now, he can't take his eyes off the little horn. He's looking at this little horn. What are you talking about? Well, this boastful horn. He keeps watching it instead of looking at the chariot of God. And that kind of got my attention. Something about this boastful horn we better look at because it got Daniel's attention when he could have turned around and looked at God. He wanted to see this. Let's keep going. He watched until the little horn, the beast, was killed and thrown into the fire, and his helpers were neutralized of their power. Read verse 11 with me. Now this is where I get this. Then I continued to watch because of the boastful words the horn was speaking. He just couldn't take his eye off the boastful horn. I kept looking until the beast was slain and its body destroyed and thrown in the blazing fire. Verse 12. The other beasts had been stripped of their authority, but were allowed to live for a period of time. Now let me just suppose tonight that you are here at the Cowboy Church for the first time and you have never had any prophecy background whatsoever. You're probably a little confused about now. I understand that. Let me just, as quick as I can, bring you up to speed what we're talking about. Daniel has a vision of the end of the world. And as we walk up to this, he takes us through all the kingdoms that have been in place in the world since the flood. Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, Rome, then the new NATO nations, and then that little horn. There's going to be coming out of the NATO nations, out of the 10 horn, they call it 10 horns, but it's European countries. Out of that configuration of nations is going to come another nation and a ruler who's going to become, now this is important, a world-dominating power. This little horn that's going to come out, this boastful horn, is going to take over the planet. It's going to rule everything. And tonight and Sunday morning we'll be talking a lot more about him. But that's where we are. We're at prophecy. We're looking into the future. We're looking at the very end. In fact, whenever this little horn takes over the country or the planet, he's got about a 7-year run. Not just about, but exactly 7-year run. And the first 3.5 years of it are bad. But we could be in that now. In other words, it won't be that much worse than it is now. But the last 3.5 years are hell on earth. They're literally hell on earth. Especially if you're a Christian. Or if you're a Jew. If you believe in God, it's going to be hell on earth for you. Okay, now let's move on. So then he continued to watch. And he kept looking until the beast was slain. Now who's the beast? Well, that's that little horn. This old, we call him the Antichrist. I don't call him that. But the Bible scholars call him the Antichrist. The little horn. This boastful guy that's going to take over the planet. He kept watching until the beast was slain and its body destroyed and thrown into the blazing fire. Verse 12. The other beasts had been stripped of their authority but were allowed to live for a period of time. When the end time comes, when that last government takes over, there's going to be they call the beast. He's going to be called the Antichrist. There's also going to be a false prophet who will lead all the world's religions and he will amalgamate all the world's religions into one worldwide faith. And everybody in the world will be required to be a part of that religion. And then we'll have one government, we'll have one religion, one economy. There will be your dollars won't be any good anymore. Nothing's going to be good anymore because they won't take credit or they won't take cash. It'll all be on this electronic system that you'll buy and sell, and you'll have to have a mark in your hand or your forehead to be able to buy or to sell or to eat or to live. And if you take that mark, we've talked about this a lot here, that is an irreversible decision. You cannot come back from that. It will not work. You cannot come back. I don't know what it does. I think it changes you genetically. But it'll take me a month to explain that again. But I think that mark is going to change you so irrevocably that once you take it, you can't even be saved. All right, let's move on. Well, next we see in verse 13, we see somebody coming he looks like a human being. That's what he says. Let's read verse 13. In my vision at night I looked, and there before me was like a human being, son of man. Okay, whatever you want to call it. Fancy language, looks like somebody, looks like a person. Looks like a human being. See, that's what God calls us. He calls us the Son of Man. We're born of Adam. We're sons of Adam. We're sons of men. All right? We're not sons of God. We will be when we're saved, when we get to heaven. But it does not yet appear what we shall be, but we know that when He appears, we'll be like Him. So we are now called sons of men, or sons of Adam. So He calls us that. And then it says, coming with the clouds of heaven. Let's go back and read it again. In my vision at night I looked, and there before me was one like a son of man, a human being, coming with the clouds of heaven. He approached the Ancient of Days and was led into His presence. He was given authority. Now this man, verse 14, was given authority, glory, and sovereign power. All nations and people of every language worshipped Him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion that will not pass away, and His kingdom is one that will never be destroyed. Who in the world is this? Who is this guy that's coming? I tell you who it is. It's called Jesus. That's who He is. He is the same one, the Alpha and the Omega. He is the same one that in the beginning was with God and was God, and everything was created by Him and for Him, and without Him there wasn't anything created that was created. This is Jesus, and in His vision He's led into the presence of God the Father. Stop just a minute. We don't have three gods. We only have one God. But with this is a vision that's trying to teach us a bigger lesson. All right, now people come to me all the time. Oh, I'm hung up on this. I don't get it. How can Jesus walk up to God the Father? Aren't they the same thing? Yeah, they are. This is a vision trying to teach us something. So just notice this, what's going on, and learn from it. And understand, I'm not taking you down a crazy road. There's only one God. He divides him. He presents Himself in three ways. So this man that's coming, what do we know about Him? Why do I think He's Jesus? Well, He calls Himself the Son of Man. Who did Jesus refer to Himself as? Over and over and over again. Jesus called Himself the Son of Man. I am the Son of Man. The Son of Man comes to seek and to save. The Son of Man. The Son of Man. That was His favorite word that He had for Himself. Okay, this is the Son of Man. Number two, He was taken up from the earth in a cloud of transfiguration. When He went to heaven, He went in a cloud. What's this doing here? He's coming in a cloud. All right, Jesus. He's given a complete authority, and every knee will bow before Him. Well, who does the Bible say is going to be given complete authority over the planet, earth, and before whom every knee will bow? Who is it? Jesus again. And His kingdom is eternal. Is the Antichrist kingdom eternal? No. Is Babylon's kingdom eternal? No. Medo-Persia? No. Greece? No. Rome? No. NATO? No. The Antichrist? No. But His kingdom is eternal. It will never pass away. Okay. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Yes. All right, verse 15. Daniel interprets his vision for us. He says in 15, I, Daniel, was troubled in spirit, and the visions that passed through my mind disturbed me. Verse 16. I approached one of those standing there. Stay in the reading now. He approached one of those standing there. Okay, who in the world is that? And he asked the meaning of all this. So he told me and gave me the interpretation of these things. The four great beasts are four kings that will rise from the earth. Now, my dear friends, same vision of Nebuchadnezzar, same vision Daniel had. This is all the same thing. If you've been following along here, this is nothing new. He's just going back and telling us all about that all over again. Verse 18. But the holy people, the Most High, will receive His kingdom and will possess it forever. Yes, forever and ever. Then I wanted to know the meaning of the fourth beast, which was different from all the others and most terrifying, with its iron teeth and bronze claws, the beast that crushed and devoured its victims and trampled underfoot whatever was left. And I also want to know about the 10 horns in the head that came, etc., etc. You just go ahead and read through that. Okay. What he's trying to say here is, Daniel want to know, ask you questions. He says, who is this? What does that mean? And the guy's telling you, it's Babylon, it's Medo-Persia, it's Greece, it's Rome, it's NATO. In other words, he's just walking down through those lists of things. I say NATO because it's just easier for me than to say the revised Roman Empire, because that's confusing too. So I'm just going to say the word NATO. Don't pin me down to that, but that gets close. All right, here we go. All the evil in the world will come to an end, and justice will prevail. Please hear that. All evil in the world will come to an end, and justice will prevail. I know that tonight some of you in this room feel like evil is never going to end in your life, and you're never going to get justice. You're never going to be treated fairly. You've been dealt a crazy deck, and you're trying to live it out, and it's not fair. Let me tell you something. It's coming. Justice will come to the universe. God is before and after all earthly kingdoms. He is called the Ancient of Days, the Old One, the Alpha and the Omega. He's the beginning and He's the end. He's everything. And when did God get started? Well, He never did get started. He's always been. When's He going to end? Well, He ain't never going to end, because He always will be. All right. Try to figure that out with your three-dimensional mind, or even four-dimensional mind, and with the brain you've been given. Try to figure out eternity and let me know how that works. So, God is here. What did God tell Daniel about this last kingdom? I think we're all more interested in this last kingdom than we are about any of the others, because a lot of that is just history, but that last kingdom, we could really be seeing the beginnings of it right now. We can watch it form. So let's find out what we can learn about it. 23, verse 23. He gave me this explanation. The fourth beast will appear on the earth. It will be different from the others. It will devour the whole earth, trampling it down, etc., etc. Okay, we're talking about now these 10 nations that are going to come up out of Rome. Verse 24. The 10 horns are 10 kings who will come from His kingdom. And then the second thing is, out of the 10 nations, another ruler or leader will come forth different from all other leaders who came before him. This last world ruler, this Antichrist, when he comes, he's going to be different than any other ruler that's ever come to planet Earth, ever ruled. Different than Nebuchadnezzar, Belshazzar, Darius, Cyrus, any Roman, Caesar. Pick them all out. He's going to be different than anybody that's ever ruled before. We know that for a fact. It says he's simply going to be different. And he will subdue 3 kings. So when this NATO guy rises up, when he comes out in this revised Roman Empire, there's going to be 10 major rulers, kingdoms, nations in this NATO alignment. 3 of them are going to be done away with, and he will take the place of 3. I know this is getting confusing. I apologize. Just bear with me. He'll take the place of 3, and then he will rule as 1, and then after a while he takes over everything. So what we need to be watching for, what you and I need to be watching for right now, is a small nation, an insignificant nation, with a leader that will come to the top, and he will begin to be very, very successful. He will lead that nation to grow. Their economy will get strong. They will begin to crowd other nations. Just watch for there's going to be some insignificant little nation that's going to rise, that will come to great, great power. And we can start watching for that right now. And he will speak. Here's another thing it says, because he's going to speak against the Most High and oppress His holy people and try to change the set times and the laws. First of all, he will speak against the Most High. He's going to speak against the God of the Jewish people, who's the same God as the Christian people. He's going to say bad things about Him. He's going He's going to accuse him. He's going to blaspheme him. He's going to try to make a case for us that he's a better God than even the God of creation. Okay, he's going to do those things. He's going to be the little horn, and he will oppose the Judeo-Christian God. He could be a Muslim or some other religion other than one based on false gods. He will lead the world to no longer follow the Most High God. He will lead the world to no longer follow the Most High God. Just watch it. He's coming. He will lead the world to oppress the people of God. Who are the people of God? Think about it a moment. It's the Jewish people first, but it's also you and I. We're the people of God. And He's going to be mad as hell at us. I can say that because that's how mad He's going to be. He's going to be mad at you and I because we didn't follow God, and He wants us to no longer do this. I'm wondering if we're not even beginning to see this start in our time today, because Christianity is becoming a persecuted faith again, as it was in the beginning, as it has been. We're beginning to be persecuted again. And the Jews have been persecuted. And now it seems like the church is going to jump into this. One other thing that interests a curious mind like mine is I hear him say he's going to try to change set times and laws. What in the world is that? He's going to try to change set times. Is he going to put in daylight savings time? I'm joking on it. I don't think that's it at all. But he's going to do something really weird. Weird enough that Daniel wrote it down. He's going to try to change things. Set times and laws. What laws is he going to change? Let me give you some ideas. Maybe the moral code of humanity is based, I really believe all the moral code of humanity is based on the Ten Commandments. I believe we all are. Everything. I believe every nation is based on that. Could it be that the little horn is going to decide that morally, that the Ten Commandments is a morally subjective and open to interpretation? And he's going to say, it's okay to kill unborn babies. It's okay to live like a sodomite. Lying is not a sin as long as it accomplishes a better situation, and on and on. Could it be he's just going to change the moral code of the universe and of earth, where it's okay to tell lies? It seems like what's happening in Washington today.
Yes.
Notice he's going to try to change the set times and laws. He doesn't get it done, but he's going to try. The little horn is going to persecute God's holy people terribly. It'll be horrible. And he's going to persecute them for, now get this, and you're going to read it in the Bible and scratch your head. It's going to be for a time, for times, and a half time. All right, that's really confusing. Let me clear it for you so you'll never be worried, never get this confused again. The time here is referring to 1 year. So he's going to persecute God's holy people for a time, for times 2 years. Add that up. What's 1 and 2? 3. And a half is what? 3.5 years. All right, that's what I've been telling you about, is that great tribulation. The last 3.5 years, which is going to be hell on earth. That's what this is talking about here. 3.5 years. That's what we call the Great Tribulation. Well, later in Daniel and even next Sunday morning, we'll dig into more of the abomination that causes desolation. And that will be interesting for you to do. Also, okay, I'm about done. I want you to read verse 26. But the court will sit, and his power will be taken away, and can be completely destroyed forever. There's going to come an end to this Antichrist. He's not going to live forever. It's because when the millennium begins, the little horn is gone. Here's what you need to know. Verse 27. Then the sovereignty, the power, and the greatness of all kingdoms under heaven will be handed over to the holy people of the Most High. Did you get that? The kingdom's going to be handed over to the holy people of the Most High. Wow, that's you and me and Jews. It's going to be handed over to us, the kingdom of God. I don't know if I'm ready for that. His kingdom will be an everlasting kingdom, and all rulers will worship and obey Him. Here's what we need to do. This is the end of the matter, Daniel says. I was deeply troubled by my thoughts, and my face turned pale, but I kept the matter to myself. That's Daniel chapter 7. 8 is again interesting. Chapter 9 is a mind blower, and when we get there, I don't know how long it will take us to get through it, but that's the process. I'm going to skip a little break here, and take a little break, and I'll be back right after Thanksgiving to pick this up again. I'll be here Sunday, but then I'm going to take a little break.